Welcome to our fourth PAC meeting. This is a very important presentation, and we really enjoyable time to have you here. Want it to be a good time, and we really appreciate you being here this morning. You have on your table an official script of the PAC Planning a Course Together schedule for today. We want you to please look at that as we go along. This morning, you'll find on the table, and most of you have already done that because we've done this several times now, a sign-in sheet. We want you to do that, put your name and all of that information on there. And later on, you'll be needing a person that's going to be your recorder and your spokesperson when we get after the presentation, so make sure you've taken care of that. Just a reminder that all the documents from each of these meetings is available on our website, official PAC website at www.pact4sjsd.com. You can also go to the district website and click on PACT logo. We're not going to spend a lot of time this morning. I'm Lois Hedge, one of the chairs. We have Lee Sawyer, Bill Hedge, and also Stacy Hark is the co-chair of the team this year. The finances are what we're going to be talking about today, and we're not going to take a lot of time to go through that. We're going to get to it. Our presenters today are Janet Pullen, St. Joseph School District Chief Financial Officer, Rick Bramer, he's Senior Researcher for Applied Economics. Rick will be on videotape. He was here on Tuesday, but today you will see him on video. Bo Musser, Controller and Chief Financial Officer at IDECR, will be in the second half of the presentation. And also Tom Richmond, who's the manager of Altech Industries, will be in the second half. Because there's so much information about the finances, we have divided the presentation into two segments. The first segment, Janet is going to give us a quick overview, Finance 101, and then Rick Bramer is going to summarize a recently completed professional demographic study that will document the St. Joseph School District enrollment projections. So without further ado, Janet Pullen.
We'll see if you're still clapping after you listen to me for a while. I hope so. I would just first like to start by recognizing the Citizens Advisory Committee for Finance. This is a group of people who have worked with me and given me a lot of input, particularly as it relates to how we frame our communications to the committee. And I see that we have, besides my two co-presenters, we also have another member, Dan Danford, is here today, and I appreciate your coming. This is an outline of what we're going to talk about today. Start out with where the St. Joseph School District is financially right now. Go on to how do we compare to other districts, a little bit about the future, and then wrap up with some of the questions that we hear a lot in the community and hopefully provide answers to those questions. And I'll also point out that there's also an appendix at the back of your materials. We just had way too much data that we couldn't possibly go through, so there are probably as many slides at the back as there are at the front that we're going to go over, and that's just for your future information. And there will also be some things on some of these slides that we just go right over. It's there for your information, but we may not talk about everything. So where are we financially? Well, to put that in perspective, our annual operating budget is about $110 million. So where does that money come from? The biggest piece is the state foundation formula, which is almost 35%, about 32% from local property taxes, about 8.5% from the Proposition C sales tax, and that's the state sales tax, but it is distributed to school districts across the state based on their attendance, and the state considers that a local source, even though it's state sales tax. Other local and county, around 9%, other state, 5%, federal 10 or 11%, and then other. The biggest piece of that pie was 35% almost for the state foundation formula, and that is driven very much by student attendance. That's kind of the one factor in there that we control. Everything else in that formula is really defined by the state, and it's just what it is. What we do here in control doesn't really make any difference for that. A new formula was put in place beginning in 06-07, and if that formula were completely phased in and completely funded, we would expect to receive $42.7 million next year. However, it's not fully phased in. They are phasing it in over 7 years, and next year will be the 5th year. So because of that, we really only predicted that we would have 41 million. And then we go to the state's budget problems, and they don't have enough money to fully fund the formula. And because of that, they apply a proration so that the available funds, that's all they can spend is what they have. And so we only expect to get 38.5 million. That's what's in the state budget right now. So that assumes that everything comes in and the state can meet its budget. Revenues are as projected. So you can see that's like $4.2 million less than what we would have received if the formula were fully funded and fully phased in. And I guess I'd also like to point out there that when it was fully funded, it was very reliable and predictable. I could use that to project what revenues would be for future years. Well, all bets are off now, because when it's not fully funded, I don't know, well, what percentage will it be funded? And that's very much in doubt, so it makes it very difficult to do projections. And as I pointed out, attendance is the key factor in this formula. So at this point, we're going to break to the tape from Rick Bramer where he talks about the enrollment projections, and you can see how that will affect the formula.
We're going to talk real quickly about big numbers. So we're just going to go through this as quickly as we can. It's not the focus of the presentation, but it's a really important piece of background to have when you're looking at doing this kind of work, I think. So the scope of our study, we actually did a study in 2007 and then came back and updated it this year. And that 2-year time frame really helps to kind of build a time series and see what's going on, understand the community better. But we have a database of existing conditions. When I say that, it's everything that describes the community as it is here and now, at least in terms of what affects enrollment. Enrollment itself, the demographic characteristics, and then what's going on with housing and construction, and more important right now, occupancy. How many of the houses actually have people in them? We do an inventory of all the development projects, really all developable land, prioritize what projects we think are going to occur in what order, so that we can predict not only the total amount of enrollment, but where enrollment will be inside the district. And part of that's driven by housing and construction, part of it's driven by the demographics of the people that occupy the housing units that are already there. So that's the third bullet really, is to look at the demographics of not just who's in the whole district, but I look neighborhood by neighborhood. I analyzed 317 neighborhoods in the case of St. Joseph to see where each one of them is at on a certain course. And we're looking at the age structure of the population and how many babies are we having. Then we prepare from that a set of district level projections, which is a macroeconomic, top-down, long-term trend. Where do we think we're heading? Where's the overall ship heading? And then we do a second one, which is this neighborhood level, this 317 neighborhoods. And if we took those and projected them and added them up, how does that compare to what if we did the macro level and went down? So we actually have a cross-check in our models so that we can get the projected enrollment as close as basically humanly possible given the amount of uncertainty that exists out there. Not just the total, but the geographic distribution of that enrollment also. Total enrollment in the district, this is the colors here are just layered by elementary school students, middle school students, and high school students. I want you to have this in the back of your head that in the 70s there were 17-odd thousand people enrolled in district schools. And now we're down to 12.5, somewhere in that neighborhood. Now the fall, as you can see, happened primarily into about the early 80s. And really since that point, we've been very stable. And here's a bunch of charts that are more than you can possibly stand, but I want to prove that